So great. Welcome, Chris and Dan. I'm excited to tackle this topic. Wanted to really start off just by setting the stage and get some overall perspectives on what's going on in the retail sector. It's been 5 months since COVID started in March. You know, what's your overall perspective? And we have some slides that we want to put up as visual aids. If we could move to the first slide. But Dan, why don't we start with you?
Thanks, Bernie. You know, I think that to understand consumer behavior in retail since the beginning of COVID and the current period, and then looking ahead, we really need to understand what's important and what's allowed, right? And what's important is so different now than it was in February, right? So I love to refer to this chart that my wife shared with me. I think she found it on Instagram, but it was published by Eureka Report back in April. What relative importance in 2020 so far? A lot of you probably have seen this, but what I love is, you know, we had to stay home, so cars just boop, went down, right? We stopped shaving, right? I had a pretty monster beard going in you know, April-May timeframe. I finally decided to start shaving because I realized I'm doing a lot of these Zoom calls, and it's good to look professional now. But not that a beard's not professional, but I had something going, right? Alcohol through the roof, right? We're seeing people doing, even though people aren't getting together and partying as much, people are doing a lot more drinking at home. One of my favorites is the toilet paper, the spike, and then back to normal, right? So huge disruption there. I think what we're all wanting to see is when's everything else going to come back to normal, right? And then obviously sweatpants. So we're going to talk here in a minute about how we're seeing that play out in the clothing retailing space. Apparel retail is just devastated, obviously. So I just wanted to open up with this, maybe a little bit of light, you know, light humor.
Yeah, a lot of changes, and again, very dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're seeing, if we flip to the next slide, in retail, we are seeing everything that people are buying is changing, and how they're buying is changing, right? So people are buying a lot more online, obviously. If you have to stay home, you can't go shopping. And for a while, like in April, only essential retailers were open, which is grocery, liquor stores, and you're seeing that in the data. And then things like, you know, gas stations, even though they were essential and stayed open, we saw a huge decline because people weren't driving. So this mirrors the previous slide, right? And then you also see a huge drop in clothing store retailing. You can see down 86% in April, right? People just were wearing sweatpants. They weren't buying clothes, because you only buy clothes if you're going out.
Yeah, and I read something this morning that for some apparel stores, about up to 70% of them were closed during that time.
That's right. That's right. So if you're, because clothing stores were not deemed essential, right? So if you're closed and the vast majority of your sales come through physical channels, obviously you're only going to be doing 14% of the usual amount of business, right? So retailers who've done well through this, and we're seeing, like Bernie said, in the Q2 earnings reports, those who've done really well, not only have been those that sell categories that people are still buying, like groceries, like alcohol, and now more recently, we're seeing more home improvement and gardening, right? As people stay home, they're fixing up the backyard, spending more time. You know, I've been cutting down trees myself and spending a lot more time in the confines of my own property, right? So we're spending a lot more money on these types of things. We're spending a lot less money on things like clothing and things that go inside the home, like furniture for inside the home, right? The retailers that have done well have been the ones that have been able to pivot not only from a category standpoint. So we're seeing great results from obviously Amazon, in addition, Target, Walmart, those that sell a broad range of categories and are able to meet the fluctuations in demand are doing really well, especially as they're able to pivot toward buying how people want to buy now, right? So no one's buying in store, they're buying online, they're buying online and then picking up at curbside, right? So Target and Walmart were really good at being able to pivot to that. So we're seeing a huge uptick. Yeah, this is a great chart, right? So you can see in April, the purple line, the only things that were up were online retail, grocery, and liquor, right? And they continue to be up, even more so in July. Now, I'll one caveat about the July numbers. It's the advanced monthly retail report, and so those numbers do get adjusted. So you have to take them with a grain of salt, but I think they are directionally meaningful. Now, those that we saw kind of a shift from being down in April to being up in July: home improvement, general merchandise, and pharmacy, right? So people are starting to get more comfortable going in and buying these types of items. Still seeing a decline in driving is playing out in the gas stations, still being down. Department stores are still down, though not nearly as bad as April. Sporting goods is another one. And that category also includes musical instruments, hobbies, and books, right? So we're seeing an uptick in people buying books, right? Staying home and reading. We're seeing people buying more weight sets, although mine is still on order. It hasn't come yet. I did buy a treadmill. I bought a rowing machine, I bought a punching bag, and I bought a Peloton, right? So we can all relate to that. It was down in April, up in July. Electronics are starting to come back. Restaurants and bars still way down, but interestingly, way less than April when everything had to close. Things started reopening in May, June, July, and we're seeing that start to come back. Furniture also starting to come back, although that may have something to do with people buying more outdoor furniture. And then obviously clothing took a huge nosedive coming back in July. So retailers are able to flex between these categories and also flex between methods of fulfillment, have done a really good job. I mean, people are buying from whoever has what they need right now and can get it to them the way they want to get it to them. So adaptability, agility has never been more important in retail.
Makes sense. Makes sense. That's a great overview.